Yo, I'm Bob. Into Marvel, happen to be totally blind since birth. Going to be talking about Spider-Man, the animated series, the one from 1994. We're going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 1, Night of the Lizard. It premiered on November 19th in 1994, and I would actually see the pilot when it premiered. So like the X-Men animated series, this was how I was first exposed to the character of Spider-Man. So many firsts in the year of 1994. I remember seeing some promos, I do believe, before the pilot came out. I wasn't sure whether or not I'd really get into the character. I didn't know much about him. I was hoping it wouldn't be goofy, it wouldn't be kiddie, and I was not disappointed at all. I was hooked from the first couple minutes of the episode. And after this episode, we had to wait quite a while for more episodes. This was it was so weird. They aired the pilot one Saturday, and then we had to wait a good 2 months, I think, for more episodes. But I really enjoyed Night of the Lizard. I like how we're introduced to these random subway workers at the beginning of the episode, and right away Spider-Man has to save one of their lives because after a run-in with the lizard, this one guy, he's not in his right mind. He's trying to escape. He's trying to process what he's seen. He's used to working. Well, he was a television executive, and now he's working in the subway. And he's trying to get away, and Spider-Man's got to save him from wrecking a car. So I like how right away Spider-Man, when we're introduced to him, he's not necessarily fighting anybody. When we first see this incarnation of Spidey, he's actually attempting to save someone's life, which he does. And it was unlike any other show I'd seen on TV. This show and X-Men, they were brand new, and I liked the links they were going to create such fantastic writing, because I don't know what I was expecting in this episode, but I wasn't expecting to see much of Spider-Man out of the suit. And I didn't know much about this character. You've got this kid. He's a struggling college student. He's trying to make ends meet so he can help his aunt pay rather large bills, pay rent and all that stuff, because he's still living with his aunt, which is understandable. I'm sure renting an apartment must have been nuts. I like that we're actually seeing a character here who is just trying to live a daily life. He's trying to do the superhero thing as well. And I like how the episode begins with no origin story. I didn't really know his origin. There are videos out there that explain, why this was. I think this was actually supposed to be aired after wasn't it a James Cameron Spider-Man movie? So we would have already gotten the origin story, but that didn't happen. I didn't really care about the origin. I thought that would come to us in time, which of course it did. And I like how the villain of the episode, he's not really a villain. He's an amputee. He's only got one arm. He is attempting to delve into mutagenics. He's trying to discover how to regrow limbs in human beings. And I like how this episode sets up so much with the neogenic recombinator. We're introduced to that in the episode as well. We'll get to see a lot more of that as season 1 and season 2 progress. We're introduced to Peter's boss, J. Jonah Jameson, voiced by the late great Ed Asner. This was my first introduction to JJ, Robbie Robertson, of course, Aunt May was in this episode, seeing her for the first time. We're introduced to Deborah Whitman. So many of these characters are so demeaning to Peter, but I like how he kind of takes it all in stride. He saves Deborah from the lizard as the episode progresses, and I like how he's having these flashbacks to who Kurt Connors is, what kind of man he is, how he's trying to better humanity as we get to see the flashbacks, and as the episode plays out, he gradually discovers, oh wow, okay, Kurt has experimented on himself. He's used the recombinator, and now he is transforming into a reptilian monster. I like how it's revealed to him. He's been tracking the lizard throughout the episode, and he learns from Kurt's wife Margaret that that's really Connors, and he's not in his right mind. I like getting to see Eddie Brock here in the first episode. I didn't know who he was eventually going to be. I'd never heard of Venom before the animated series, of course. I think the action figures were coming out around this time. My cousin would actually get a 3-pack of action figures from Toys R Us in a short amount of time. Later on that month, he'd get Spidey, Carnage, and Venom. I think they came in a 3-pack. That's probably around the time he got Mojo for free, because he bought that 3-pack of action figures. So I actually got to take a look at tactile representations of Spider-Man, Venom, and Carnage. I do believe he was in that 3-pack as well. But yeah, I liked getting to see Eddie Brock for the first time. Right away, I figured he was kind of a dirtbag. They really didn't go into his backstory in this particular episode, but I like how they're setting things up with Eddie. He is down on his luck. He's attempting to compete with Parker, so one of them will get the $1,000 bonus. Yeah, whoever turns in the photo of the lizard to Jameson's going to get $1,000. And Peter, of course, he wants it for very noble reasons. He's trying to help his aunt pay the bills, so that's why he is tracking down the lizard. I love how he's trying to balance his job, his classes, his superhero life, and how all of that is kind of being juggled in this episode as we're watching him hunt the lizard. I love Christopher Daniel Barnes as Spider-Man, and Hank Azaria here as Eddie Brock. I didn't know I was listening to him at the very same time. I was just getting into The Simpsons. He was doing Mo Sizlak and Professor Frink and Comic Book Guy and so many other voices. I didn't know that this was in fact the same guy. No credits or what have you for me to be able to read in Braille. I didn't have anybody to narrate the credits, so I didn't know who voiced who. But so cool looking back on this episode now. So when we eventually get to the final confrontation in the sewer, after Connors captures his wife because he needs her hands in order to jimmy the neogenic recombinator in order to transform everyone in the city into lizards. This guy's trying to cure all diseases. He doesn't want people to hurt anymore. Of course, his reptilian mind is taking over. He's not really thinking it through logically. You've got his wife trying to explain to him, hey, no, they're going to transform into deranged monsters. You're not thinking clearly. You've got Spider-Man showing up, and they have that fight under the water there. You've got Spider-Man saving the missing subway worker here in the episode. And I like how, as he's fighting Connors, he's remembering who he really is. He really doesn't want to hurt him. Connors is just, in his mind, he's attempting to help the entire human race, but of course his reptile mind is taken over by this point. He's not even speaking by the end of the episode. He's just growling and hissing, and I love the final confrontation. He uses the neogenic recombinator to revert Connors to his human form, but of course it's not going to be permanent. We're going to see Connors having to deal with reversion later on in the show, which I loved. I like how, just because he zaps him with a recombinator, it's not going to be a permanent be-all, end-all cure. And I like how Peter gets the $1,000, and he doesn't use it to buy a new camera. He uses it to help Aunt May pay the bills. And I like how Eddie Brock has to, do without at the end of the episode. But this, of course, is going to set up a lot of enmity between him and Spider-Man later on, and Peter Parker as well. I had no idea who Eddie was going to turn out to be. I didn't know anything about the symbiote when I watched the episode for the first time, or maybe you want to call it the symbiote or symbiote. There are several different ways to pronounce the name of the alien costume, but I think it was a fantastic episode, and I like how it ends. You've got Aunt May saying that Spider-Man is a horrible person, but Peter's like, if she only knew, I'm trapped in Spider-Man's web for good. And I loved how the episode ended. I wanted to see more. I didn't think we were done with the Recombinator when the episode ended, which goes into the next video. I'm going to be talking about Sting of the Scorpion next time. A lot of fans actually watch that as the second episode because, Peter is told about Mary Jane. It doesn't appear as if he's met her yet. He's dating Felicia in that episode. We're given some amazing backstory to J. Jonah Jameson in this show as to why he hates Spider-Man so much, why he wants to expose him as a menace. I really like what they did with, why JJ hates men in masks. Now, of course he can hire men in masks like Mysterio, which we'll see later in the in the season. I mean that's perfectly okay. But I can't wait to get into more of these episodes. I would give this episode an absolute 10 out of 10. I think it was a really strong pilot. I liked how we're introduced to just so many characters in 22, 23 minutes. We're not just introduced to Peter in the suit. We're introduced to him struggling, just like an average New Yorker. He's going to college. He's trying to help his aunt pay the bills. He's got people like Deborah Whitman making fun of him for being late to class and being a geek, but he still takes everything in stride. And I just got to like the guy in seconds after I was introduced to him in this episode. And if it hadn't been for shows like Spider-Man and X-Men, that shows that I see as my comic books in a way, I don't know. I don't know what I would have been into as a kid, but I was and still am really happy to be able to have these episodes to look back on. And, I'd love to do more videos pertaining to Spider-Man, getting into Spectacular Spider-Man with Josh Keaton playing the role of Spidey. It's another one of my favorite shows. I also like the Disney 2017 version of Spider-Man, I think the most recent one. That was pretty good too. He's just always been one of my favorite Marvel superheroes and can't wait to do more episode reviews in season 1. I might keep these to videos in which I just talk about one episode. Maybe we'll do 2 episodes per video, but there's just so much to get into when it comes to what they're setting up in season 1. Like the Recombinator. So I think I'm going to do Sting of the Scorpion next time because we get to see that again. I think it serves as a neat little duology pertaining to the Recombinator. We see it responsible for creating the lizard in this episode, and in the next, if you want to watch that as episode 2, it is responsible for turning Matt Gargan into the Scorpion. So yeah, Sting of the Scorpion next time, and I will hear you guys then.